guys are gonna learn is how to roll a coil. And you wanna get enough clay to work with. I'll have remember all the extra clay is in the black bucket in the middle of the room. Dry scraps go in the red bucket or the clear bucket, but you're gonna get enough clay. And you also wanna pay attention, we all have different size hands. So we have to think about when we're sculpting our cup, not only about the design, but how it's gonna sit in our hands, how it's gonna be comfortable. So you have to make sure that you can push your hand through it, because if you make a tiny handle, your hand will not go through it. You won't be able to hold it. You also have to make sure it's thick enough so that it will stay together, because if you make it really, really thin, it will break. Anything smaller than your thumb or your pinky, it will just break in half. So you're gonna get the clay, and to make a coil, it's just like driving a car. You wanna make sure that you're paying attention to the pressure you're using. You also wanna use only the palm of your hand, not your fingers. Your fingers have lots of little bumps from all the bones and tendons, so it'll actually make it lumpy. So you're gonna get a flatter, even coil if you use this part of your hand, the palm. And I like to put my fingers either together or overlap them. I think it's better together. And I'm just gonna slowly start to push. And I'm being really careful. If it gets too wide on one area, I'm just gonna focus my hand on that section. And I'm going to, as I'm moving, I'm gonna start pulling my hands across like this, and that will help my clay move in that direction. I'm noticing a lot of you guys are really being gentle with your clay, and you're worried about, breaking it and stuff, and there's no need to be scared. The clay is responsive to your hands. If it starts to get flat like this, it's on purpose. That just means you're pushing down too hard. So you pull the coil up right here, then put your palm and gently start rocking, and that will help it get centered back into an even coil. If it also starts to get cracking, it's because your hands are warm. So they're like little mini heaters. You also need your water. I'm still noticing people are not getting water. So get your hands, don't put water on here, or you're gonna make a nasty, slick mess. Just coat your hands with water, and again, start rolling and pulling gently. I always start here, and then I start to pull out. And away from the middle of my coil. So notice how my coil is starting to get longer. All right. The next thing I want to do, I'm always going to work with more clay because I want to make sure that I have enough. So your cup does shrink in size, but I want to measure how long my handle needs to be. I have a lot of clay right now, so I want to make sure that I have a large amount here. I usually say at least enough that you can hold, and then I want to make sure that I'm going to have about a little bit over an inch on the bottom. So I just mark it with my hand. I'm going to cut that off and put that here, and then I'm going to keep the clay in one hand, and I'm going to dip my hand in the water. And remember that your water on the left hand side is warm, and then on the right hand side it's cold. So to get your handle, I'm taking my thumb and my index finger and my middle finger, and I'm going to gently start to pull. And this is going to give me that natural, it's going to start to help flatten it out. And I can go in both directions, and I want to make sure this is going to get even. And it's pulling, and you always need to keep it with water. And this is going to help you get it flat so it's comfortable to hold, okay? So now that I've measured, now I can bend it into place, and I want to put it up to my cup and make sure that it is, this is a good thickness for you, especially if you need to change any of it. I'm going to put it right up to my cup, and I'm going to take my needle tool, and I'm going to score where it would line up to the edge of that cup. All right, so there I have my handle. I'm going to set this to the side. This is the most important part. So you want to set it here this way, not this way. And this is going to help it start to solidify into the form. Then I'm going to go back to my cup, and I want to scratch on the cup where I'm going to connect my coil. And depending on your design, my tail was smaller because it's a squirrel tail, so I actually made mine smaller. Attach it first and then start to sculpt it. Or like you can see on the top of my tail, I added another piece. So all those extra pieces that you might have cut off, you can actually use those to attach. Some of you have tails, some of you have flowers. If you want to add pieces, you can. If you're going to add more pieces to your handle, I would probably make sure that your handle is about the thickness of your finger. Okay, so I gave myself a little bit more wiggle room on here to keep it thick, but that is the thickness of my finger. So notice how I'm using the water to help smooth and elongate and get that nice band. Okay, so a lot of you guys are making these clumpy coils. That won't work. You use your fingers to pull the clay, elongate. So I like to do a scissor technique, or like I said, you take your thumb with your index finger, middle finger, and pull. And that's how you get a pretty much like a perfect handle. Okay?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Voila.